some of you hear or see us a lot, and some may not, but this is Jim McCreary. He's been with Viega longer than me, and he's the expert in the room, but I'm learning how to be more like Jim, so I started with Viega last year, so I'm coming up in June on my first year with the company, but it's a great company with innovative products, and one of the things we always like to break the ice with is kind of giving a history of the company, because what you're looking at is today. You know, this is a snapshot of where we're going, but if you take a look back at 1899 when two brothers, Viegner brothers, they basically decided let's make a better way to get beer out of a keg. Let's design and manufacture beer taps, brass beer taps, in fact. So from that point on, the company has been about innovations, not just Me Too products where you might have a catalog and you say, oh yeah, we have that, we have that. These are innovative products that you don't generally see engineered like these, okay? So having said that, the company in 1989 brought ProPress to Europe, okay? And ProPress would be the copper and the stainless steel. And so you guys are familiar with the ProPress because you've seen it for a long time. In 1999 we brought it to this country. So it's been a long time now. A lot of people are using this. A lot of buildings within a mile or two are using this product. And thanks to you and your efforts, that's because of what you've done. So what does this basically make as far as difference? You've heard of press technology, cold press, no flame, no need to have a guy standing around the fire extinguisher for 2 days or 2 hours after a job has been installed. So what sets us apart is Viega has Smart Connect technology, okay? Smart Connect technology simply means that when you have dry fitted a system and it's all fitted together, now you're getting to the point where you're going to be pressing to make it a permanent connection, okay? If you have using air or water testing, you'll know which connection you forgot to do if you walk away from the job or for whatever reason you forget to press a joint. It will either whistle through the Smart Connect technology or it will drip, drip, drip water, okay? And what you'll see on each fitting is a yellow dot or a green dot, and the yellow dot is significant because yellow dot is for use in gas or hydrocarbon applications, and the green dot is for use in water applications in both MegaPress and ProPress, okay? What we'll do next is basically show you that the difference in the Smart Connect technology is what makes this product better than the competition, because they're kind of a Me Too product, whereas we pioneered the press technology, and I'll tell you why. There's a third-party testing called QA Laboratories, QAI I mean, and what they do is they test building industry products and kind of compare them. It's kind of like a consumer report. You know, you won't want to buy a TV unless you looked and saw which one's best, or a video camera. So essentially what they did was they had Viega in brand A and brand B, and I think you guys know who the A and the B are, and they basically tested couplings, sizes 1/2 inch to 2 inch. Then they did a air pressure from 0.1 or from 1 psi to 55, and then water pressure from 0.5 to 85. All right. So what we did here was we put it into a bar graph to show you the results. In column A, or I should say the first column, this is Viega. So 1/2 inch through 2 inch, every single size when tested performed 100%. So therefore it told you that you forgot to press a fitting. Brand A here, not bad. You know, in air testing they performed well as well. Brand B, failures at all sizes after 1/2 inch. So if you're a betting person, or if you're some sort of a person who wants continuity and reliability, I would say that one probably wouldn't be your best bet. Wouldn't you agree? So now we're going to the water testing, okay? And the water testing, again, Viega performed 100% of the time, okay? Every single time in all sizes. Now brand A seemed to fail quite a bit. You can see the bar graph does not reach the same level, and this one again they failed miserably. So what are we doing with those products, right? Well, here it is again. I told you that at this little dot, and I'll pass this down here, John.
Sure.
Oops, I didn't press it on purpose. You'll note that there's a yellow dot on that one, and again, if it's a green one, you'll see right behind this, and I'm passing this around because it's big enough for you to actually put it in your hand and see, there is a sealing element in here, and you'll be able to see right by the arrow. Whoops, I'll let you pass that around. Right by the arrow, feel it with your finger. There is a little kind of like a groove into the construction of the fitting. And that's where that will always leak the air or the water to tell you forgot to press it, okay? So that's what Smart Connect technology is. It's predictable, and it'll be at that dot every single time, whereas the competition, and I'll pass this around so you can actually see that the competition, brand A and brand B, they do something to their sealing element. It's not in the construction of the fitting itself. They can't copy ours because it's a patented technology, but you can see that there's a, I guess you'd call somewhat of a nubby type of sealing element where it could leak anywhere on there if it does perform, okay? So again, I'll pass that around so that you guys can take a look at that. Is there any questions so far on the ProPress copper? You understand the Smart Connect technology and how that basically outperforms the competition. So that's one of your selling advantages when you're going in there. Now, moving forward, we have that available obviously in the stainless steel configurations, okay? So I'll pass that around, and what we've done is we've made a cutaway, and you can see how that sealing element inside of this fitting, when it's pressed, it is encapsulated by the metal itself, so it's kind of a secondary seal to help make sure that if there is a thermal expansion or some way that there would be a difference in the fit of this fitting, that it would be that little like insurance policy, you might say, to make sure that there wouldn't be any media leaking, okay? There you go, Jim. And we have it in the larger sizes as well. You can see, you know, you get into the XL copper, and this is what you're looking at here, which uses a different kind of jaw set. We'll go into that. So this is what you're looking at here, this kind of a jaw set, all right, which goes around the fitting, and then you use the V2 actuator to rest that fitting. Whereas in the smaller ones, you can see here, you don't have this big booster on the end. You're going to be pressing it with just the jaws, okay? Any questions on that then? All right, so when we move forward to 2012, we have MegaPress. That's when Viega introduced MegaPress to the marketplace for your black iron pipe, schedule 5 through 40, okay? Again, it's available in gas and hydronic, so it has the green dot and the yellow dot for both applications, okay? So what we've done is it's a different construction of this fitting here. What you're looking at in the beginning of the fitting is a 420 stainless steel grip ring, all right? And then behind that a separator ring, and then the sealing element itself. There's 3 components to that. And essentially the 420 stainless steel grip ring is designed to bite into the pipe. It's harder than the pipe it's biting into, so when you have that mechanical connection, it stays, okay? Now, as Jim has said many times in the technology of this product, it can be used as a swing joint. So as it is pressed and you realize you may have pressed it too soon, you may want to move it at 5 to 10 degrees or something like that, getting a breaker bar on the end of it and just twisting upward, bringing it up to that desired fitting area, then you're just ready to press that, okay? So it is designed that it can be used and moved and then repressed and gotten a permanent connection again, okay? So essentially the preparation for both ProPress and MegaPress is the same. When we do the, I always like using these fittings here, when we do the basic setup, you're going to mark or cut your pipe 90-degree angle, nice smooth cut, clean into burr, so you don't want any loose pieces of sharp metal sitting there, so when you're inserting it, it scrapes or cuts open the sealing element that's inside. Put it in there, just dry fitting, and then you mark it with a marking pen or a painted pen. You can see how I've done that, and then you're ready to press, okay? And then you put it in the tool, of course, you're ready to press like that, all right? So it's a good business practice to always mark it, and then again, if you remember the Smart Connect technology, you'll have the dot out here as you're fitting it so that you know if you did forget to press, that's exactly where it's going to whistle or drop water, okay?
Right. Questions from the field that we get, because we're going to talk today. That was a great overview. Thanks, Mike. We're talking about MegaPress XL and MegaPress Stainless. That's primarily why we asked for some time today. So, you know, the technology that you all have made known here is the same cold press technology that we're using in the new systems. Now, the carbon steel MegaPress is 1/2 through 4 inch. gas 2" and smaller. And why is that? The national codes, I don't think in my lifetime are going to approve MegaPress G above 2". So very easy for us to gear up with a HNBR sealing element to address natural gas, propane, fuel oils, but I think in my lifetime it's probably not going to happen. So our 1/2 through 4" MegaPress is designed for hydronics, compressed air, glycol, condensate applications. So we're going to talk today about how we can do that. You're already set up in our system to go ahead and quote and purchase MegaPress XL. MegaPress XL, when it was first introduced, had an EPDM sealing element, obviously for water applications. We stood back and we said, you know, the limitation that we have with EPDM is temperature. So 250 degrees F is the upper temperature limit. That's continuous. And if we were to, which we've now done, standardize on FKM for MegaPress XL, we can handle higher temperatures. So the temperature rating of FKM is 280 degrees F continuous and 350 degrees F on excursion. How we define excursion is for a 24-hour period of time.
Sorry, was it 350?
350 it's 350 on excursion.
Okay.
And 284. I always round it. It's 280, which is FKM is like a Viton. The ASTM reference for Viton is FKM. So when you get the questions from the field, they're going to want to know what is HNBR? It's Buna. You know, so if you go through a drive-in like a McDonald's, and if it's in Philadelphia, PGW is the gas utility. There on the 2". They're going to use a resilient seated butterfly valve at the meter set. So if you're going through a McDonald's in the Philadelphia area, you look over, you're going to see a Grinnell or a Nipco butterfly with a Buna seat. So the ASTM reference for Buna is HNBR. FKM then, as you notice already, has the white dot. So that fitting, the T and the 90 there that you see, is a MegaPress XL fitting. And it has the white dot on it telling you that it's FKM. The white dot also tells you that it has our leak detection system that Mike was talking about. So 100 times out of 100, it identifies an unpressed connection before the installer goes home. The things that really get guys is that, you know, they dry fitted, so they're going to come through and they're going to make all of their presses all at one time. And when they do that, they want to know that they overlooked the joint before they're home, because they're going to get called out. They'll get what we call false positive, especially on our copper systems. When you join 2 pieces of copper with a sealing element, it can hold for a period of time. So that's what we try to do. We try to identify an unpressed connection while the installer is still on the job. All of our systems have that. So the 2" and smaller MegaPress G has got a lot of traction. Are you seeing it now?
I am.
Yeah, UGI acceptance has really helped us out there. And now, a year ago, when we were here, I was telling you it was just starting to get traction. Well, now it's been very good to see. The electric one, if you talk about MegaPress G, the questions that we get from the field is, how do we do the static ground? So Mike was talking about that grip ring, which is that's the bi-directional sharp tooth item that's on the inside of the fitting there. That gives us our mechanical strength. So we do that on copper systems, 2.5, 3", and 4". We do that on all of our scheduled steel pipe 5, 10, 40, because 2 things. One is we have to design that fitting as a swing joint. The other is we can't live with any vertical separation. So vertical separation for our competition is quite a challenge. And our grip ring is also a patented bidirectional feature, and that's how we accomplish our strength of connection. Last winter, no, the winter before last, we had a rooftop unit that was plumbed up with MegaPress G, and the ice and the snow and the weight of the unit collapsed the roof. So the threaded joint right at the unit sheared, because when you're threading pipe, you're taking 30% of the metal away. The insurance company took our gnarled matrix of MegaPress pipe and fittings back, and they pressure tested it, and every fitting held. 45s looked like 90s. It was ridiculous. So the thing that we really can point to from experience is the strength of that connection is, number one, how gas utilities now are more than comfortable with the use of MegaPress G. Do I see them expanding it to 6-inch? I don't. I mean, we just, it was in November, we just celebrated that we average 1.3 million fittings a day, is what we're doing now. Now, granted, most of that's on the copper side still, and not only do we manufacture in 5 locations globally, but we're now making our metal systems in McPherson, Kansas. So again, today here we wanted to talk primarily about MegaPress XL and MegaPress Stainless, but just as a side note is, Viega is the largest domestic PEX manufacturer in the country. So we make our own resin, we extrude our own polyethylene cross-linked pipe. It uses the same cold press technology that you all made famous here from a copper perspective. There's a copper by PEX adapter on the table there. That's our most popular fitting. So that 1.3 million fittings, that copper by PEX adapter is the most popular. And whenever we transition from one system to the next, we try to do it with one fitting whenever possible. Like, we're going to come out here and ask you for some time in August. We're going to schedule it months in advance, but the Viega van is coming to the central PA area for the month of August this year. Now, that's a brand new van. All of our systems are mounted to the interior walls. We show how you can, a lot of what we do is radiant. So let's say we're pouring a slab at a distribution center. As we're pouring the slab, we're rolling out our climate mat into the slab, and they're on any, what we're trying to do is reduce any potential leak paths, so you're not going to see any fittings that are encapsulated in the concrete. But the controls and all of the other things that go along with that are on display in that Viega van. So maybe what we do is we go on the road, we hit some of your your high profile accounts, or we set up some situation where everybody comes here to see it. But it really does translate well to people. The MSCA would be a good option. The GSA, go to their location, have them come out at lunch. Maybe Mike and I will cater it, and we'll show it off that way. So the grip ring gives us our static ground. It's as Mike mentioned on the MegaPress G. These are kind of the questions that we get: is how do you accomplish that? Do you have to ground it anything different? Do you have to hang the fitting differently than you would a traditional fitting? And the answer is no. The 420 grip ring, high carbon content, is inherently our static ground. So here we are, 2-inch and smaller. We're going to battle with that. I think within a year or two, you're really going to see that MegaPress G is a good contributor to your margin, to your profit margin. Our competition, Apollo Express, shows it in their literature. They are definitely seeing that the future is there. That can only be good for us. Right now, Viega is the only manufacturer that makes MegaPress. But you can see that the world has recognized that that's where our future is. From a tooling perspective, we tooled up with Rigid years and years ago. 2 German companies come to the market at the same time here in 1999, and so I have a kind of a distinct preference for Rigid. My tool fell off a high lift about 2 years ago. I couldn't believe it. It crushed the battery. Both the battery and the tool went in 2 different directions, and we just changed the battery out. She's still kicking. The repair center for rigid is in Chester, PA. Now, they just opened it up within the last year. So when the customer comes to you and says, hey, I got a tool and the amber light is flashing, that says that tool went 41,000 cycles. Pretty incredible. At 42,000, that tool will shut down. And then, so at that point, the tool's going to be out of commission for about 2 weeks, because rigid will then change the hydraulic fluid out, recalibrate the tool, and for that, I think they charge about $350. So a lot of your customers will go directly to rigid to get that done, or they may come back and ask you to coordinate it. If you need help with that, just let us know. But now Milwaukee and now DeWalt are coming out with tools that are supporting the black iron systems. So gas, propane, natural gas, fuel oils, that's pretty clear. You see that the word is out. You know, when we had to get CSA approval, which carries the UL/FM, we had to earn the ANSI LC4 certificate, and that's where the issue of redesigning our fitting, this was about 8 years ago, to be able to serve as a swing joint came to play. So we hold all of those approvals. The other thing is that we're going to continue to support is ICC PMG 1036. So that's third-party certification that the installers need to understand, need to read, need to make comfortable with. And so on an annual basis, we submit product, and ICC will then confirm that it does what it says that it's to do. So then, from a 2.5, 3-inch, and 4-inch, even though it's designed and we have the sealing element in the HNBR that's all ready to go, we don't have CSA, we don't have UL, we don't have LC4, so we're going to stay away from that for now, at least for the time being. Applications that we're targeting the MegaPress XL for, chilled water is number one. Because if you see a guy that he has to go out and light, what they'll do is they'll fabricate, they buy their pipe from you, they mark it up much like the sprinkler guys do. It gets to the job site, they then will need to do their tie-ins. So for them to light a torch and weld that in advance of the work, they have to get a burn permit, and then after the work is done, they obviously have to have a fire watch, you know, an hour, hour and a half, all of which costs them a lot of money. The other thing is, if they're doing a retrofit work, they don't have to drain the system to do it, just like your main thing that you promote with the ProPress side of things. That's the number one area that we're going after. Condensate return. If you take a look at a lot of the condensate return lines that we see, they're done in SCED 80. Well, the OD of our 5, 10, and 40 is the same as the 80. So is that an approved application for Viega? It's not an approved application for Viega because Viega doesn't want our fittings to be the weak link in any piping system. Our fittings are designed to a SCED 40 body wall. Now, will it work? Do guys use it every day of the week? We introduced on a 3/4 inch an extended slip coupling for that purpose. So even though it's not an approved application for Viega, and when Mike and I talk about approved applications, we really look at it from two different perspectives. Viega and then codes, local authority having jurisdiction, that's a completely different thing. Generally, our standards are a little bit more stringent, so we don't want our fitting used on that application. Guys are doing it every day of the week now, because they can come in on a weekend, cut into an existing pipe, they'll hold their fitting up, they'll mark each end, slide the slip coupling on, come back, they're going to use a scissor jaw, and they're going to press from this side, come in and press from the other side. Literally they have an hour's time in it. So that's the advantage. On condensate, you have to be careful. Sometimes galvanic corrosion is an issue, and they are concerned, so that they'll use a lined piping system. So obviously our fittings, even though we've got that zinc nickel shiny coating, this is a particular one, is stainless. So here's 304 stainless, here's carbon steel. So a lot of people will mistake our carbon steel for stainless. But my point though is it's not lined. So if corrosion protection is really an issue, we need to stay clear of that. So before we move off of MegaPress XL, in the short period of time that it's been out, so I think it's been December, we've done most probably 15 jobs. Even though, you know, I was away when the owner of our company decided he was going to release the MegaPress XL without any advance notice. Rigid wasn't tooled up yet. So we had to really scurry to get the tools available. So Rigid made 36 boosters available, of which Mike and I have 3. So please don't let that hold it back. Are we able to do projects where we might be pressing 50 or 60 fittings? Well, no, because then a mechanical's going to want to buy his own booster set. But in the smaller projects, this is where we're going to, really see us get traction. Yes, we're definitely ready on the smaller sizes. Again, the temperature rating is FKM is standard. Is going to be 280 degrees. If you ask us what is the pressure rating of that fitting, and it's on a water system, by code we got to tell you it's 200, but we pressure test the XL to 600 psi. So if you need it to be, what we'll do is we'll write a letter specific to the job, and we'll say the MegaPress items on this project are rated to 300 psi. We can do that with a couple of 3 days notice. But generally, if it's a water system, 200 psi is what we're going to rate the fitting for. Your end prep is the same as what you do now. Cut to a right angle, don't go crazy, just deburr it. Good engineering practice at that point would be to ream it. Don't try to remove all the lacquer, right? If there's any oils or dirt, remove that, right? But don't go crazy on the end prep, just make the end smooth. Any questions at all with that side of things? I see that this is really going to have great application for us here. I've already seen it. We did, Larry had us out last week and we credentialed James Craft. And I was telling you guys earlier is that I had never really thought that credentialing was had any importance at all. Because with the Viega systems, you don't have to be certified. So it's not like, gas tight or CSST gas piping where the manufacturer has to certify the installers. So that's a major advantage. If they know to cut to a right angle, mark the pipe, you mark the pipe, why? On your dry fitting and you come back and you see that the mark sits proud of the fitting, just pop the pipe further into the fitting before you press. And if it's an inspected job, the inspector is walking around with our installation manual, and our installation manual says that the installer must mark the pipe. That's for all of our systems. And so if an inspector sees that the pipe is marked, he just keeps on moving. If it's not, well, now he has cause to ask questions. So the importance of the marking of pipe is the same as what we've all seen before. In terms of codes, standards, and approvals, all that homework has long been done on the MegaPress XL. The local authority having jurisdiction will obviously have an opinion. And what we've seen to date on those 10 to 15 jobs here locally is he asks a couple of questions. He's familiar with ProPress and MegaPress, so generally those answers will carry the day. The other thing that we wanted to talk about, because you were the very first to jump out with a what we call an ISO, initial stock order investment on MegaPress stainless. So all the things that we talked about with MegaPress apply to MegaPress stainless as well. You don't have to light a torch. The strength of the connection is accomplished through the grip ring. The grip ring on our stainless is going to mirror whatever the fitting is. So if it's a 304 fitting, it'll be a 304 grip ring. If it's a 316 fitting, it'll be a 316 grip ring. our our sealing element may or may not see line media. So, you know, if we're doing exposed sprinkler in this room, and there's no expansion in that line, either thermal expansion or otherwise, there's no reason for that sealing element really to see media. So the reason we have it there is to affect our positive shut-off. But on our copper systems, unless there's expansion, that sealing element may not even come in contact with the media. When we press, we're pressing on both sides and across the top. So if we're pressing in this room, we're going to be encapsulating forever whatever's in the air. So it's a static seal, unlike a valve seat where you're, you know, grinding away between your disc and your seat, or your ball and your seat, creating particulate matter generation. Ours are static and done. So we are offering for industrial applications, in essence, we're doubling the warranties that you get for threaded fittings, which, you know, so we have a 2-year warranty in industrial plants on our, whether it be MegaPress, MegaPress stainless, ProPress stainless. If it's in a plant environment that we really can't control, we're going to have a 2-year warranty. If it's a commercial application, like ProPress, we have a 50-year warranty. If it's MegaPress G in a commercial environment, 10-year warranty. So Viega is very conscious of the need to get everyone's attention with our warranties. Doesn't mean that, you know, these systems are going to expire a day after that. We design our systems to exceed what the engineers are designing mechanical rooms for. So today, engineers are typically designing mechanical rooms for 30 years life. So we're going to make sure that we exceed that. On the MegaPress stainless, we've mirrored 304 and 316 to what we do for our ProPress stainless. Industrial piping systems is huge with our ProPress stainless systems. So if you notice on our 304, we standardize on FKM for our sealing element. It's what you support with inventory here. It's what we support you with inventory in Carlisle. So the 304 FKM combination makes total sense. It goes after mild caustics, sodium hydroxide applications. We have one of your customers here recently, which was West Chemical in York, uses standard MegaPress EPDM on 25% sodium hydroxide. So how I know it is that they actually had a failure, and it was because they didn't have an expansion compensator in the line. They recognized it. It's a Metroflex, a quick fix, back up and running. But I looked at it, and from a materials compatibility perspective, we can actually use carbon steel up to 50% sodium hydroxide concentration. So, you know, in years past where we would go in and we would talk to a consultant about ProPress, ProPress copper, ProPress stainless, oftentimes he'd laugh me out of the room because he really wants to see a solution for scheduled pipe. Well, we now have that. Schedule 5, Schedule 10, Schedule 40, both in carbon steel and in 304 and 316.
Is there some place either in the catalog or on the website that we can find the compatibility chart? Because that was my biggest problem when I was doing that for Kinsley. It was trying to find what was going to go with what.
Yeah, can you get the metals brochure?
Yep. I was just
Yeah, page 17 of the metals brochure. By the way, this is a good time to ask, who's responsible for ordering literature for industrial piping systems here in York? Is there one person that? Because
No.
we noted that we don't have an account set up in the system. So before we leave here today, let's ask Mike and I to get an account set up for you. We just need the one person to have an assigned email So there you are, there's a,
Hey,
give it to the busiest person, right? Page 17 of the metals brochure are some of the approved applications. We're revising that chart because we've got a lot of new stuff coming out, and we've had a lot of new stuff introduced here in this last year. But if I took a look at our approved applications database, it'd be like a 6-inch folder. Yeah. So there's a quick chart. We call it an applications chart. So we talked about credentialing. I would at least offer it. Let me have it in the, before I leave here. I'll get them. I have the cards from Mike. Mike did a credentials training with James Craft and Son, and a bunch of people showed up that we didn't know were to be there. So we owe them the cards, and I printed them out and brought them with me today. But what happens there is a guy or woman will have a card in on their person, and they're working in a plant. Let's say they're up at Gladfelter, and they say, "Hey, do you know what you're doing here?" He can pull out a card and says, "Look, I've been formally trained by Viega. I know what I'm doing," and then the conversation then is over. So credentialing, I'm offering. It's a little bit more formalized. In fact, I brought cards, and I want to issue cards to our attendees from today, because if you've been through a couple of these discussions before, and you're fully up on press. You know that we're not here to revolutionize the world. There are times when it makes no sense to press. There are times when it does make sense to press. And ultimately, that's what this credentialing card does. It identifies an installer who has been formally trained. The other thing was literature we wanted to talk about today. And also we're going to be doing classes in Nashua and New Hampshire. And so what we're going to try to do is get installers that would be interested in yet the next level of training to go to Nashua. Generally what we do, the next class that I'm doing, we're going to go up on a Monday, and then Monday night we're going to go to a Red Sox game, and then so that's basically a travel day, dinner, Red Sox game. Then Tuesday morning we're in classroom for about 2 hours. Then we go into the shop area with tools and fittings, and we learn how to do things at the next level. I find it to be useful from the perspective of you've got a guy that is pressing, he's committed to you, and you want to post-close him, you want to show him more. And what that does is it kind of carries the day when you come and you're going to introduce refrigeration to the guy. He's going to be, all right, I'm all about it. Or if you're going to need to get into med gases, he's going to be, all right, I'm all about it. So keep in mind too that we can sponsor trips like that, and talk to Mike if you would. So that's about all we wanted to do today, is to give you an overview. I'd like to finish up with a couple of things that it's always good to talk about the good, but we actually have some vulnerability as well. One of which is in the way of valving. As you know, our bronze-bodied valve is not competitively priced. Every one of our wholesalers has to have a better option from a bronze perspective. We hired a person who's a product manager. She actually came from NIPCO. Her name is Kate Lee. She joined us about a year ago. Her whole thing is she's going to be introducing a 1/2 through 4-inch comprehensive ball valve program. I've already looked at the prices. The prices are below the Apollo 77 wholesaler net price level, and it has obviously features because we started with a clean sheet of paper, so we learned from everybody else's successes. So that is coming. We're a little disappointed that it hasn't happened yet, but Mike and I are going to learn more about that when we go to Denver in April. From a MegaPress perspective, Apollo has introduced 2 carbon steel bodied press valves. I haven't seen one in the field yet, but they're advertising it. one with an EPDM sealing element for water service. The next one is a HMBR sealing element for gas. Looking at the pricing that's been out there, I think the industry, and we're following suit, but I think the industry is getting a little bit too smart. It's gonna outperform the press valve. So there's a little bit of vulnerability. So when you get to where you're making your evaluations, please keep in mind that what you're doing currently is probably the best solution that you have. Just use male adapters with a threaded valve, whether it be carbon steel or stainless. And is there anything else? I think not. I think that you know that the Smart Connect, oh, I know. On the MegaPress side of things, you may see that there's a potential for deflection. This fitting right here is a good indication of it. It's been pressed, and you can see that nobody took care to align the pipe. So again, if we're doing exposed sprinkler in this room, a little north-south movement is okay, but if you see east-west movement, it just looks bad. Does it change the integrity of the joint? No. But do we want it to look good when it's done? Yes. How do we do it? We alternate when we come in with our scissor jaws so that it tends to torque the pipe straight. The other thing to keep in mind is that that MegaPress fitting there, whether it be the carbon steel or the stainless, meets DIN standards and the US Imperial standards, one fitting. Big part of our business is cruise ships. Cruise ships are done in metric. So we've designed MegaPress so that that one fitting can be applied to both markets. Don't expect us to have a MegaPress valve anytime soon, because I think the industry realizes that we're getting a little bit too smart for ourselves. Yeah. And the other thing that I want to mention is Larry and a bunch of other guys here at IPS have figured it out. But if you take Mike into an account that we've not been into before with another wholesaler, then it locks that account up. We can't go in there with another wholesaler. So it's kind of like the best kept secret. And Larry turned it around, and others have turned it around, and he's recognizing it. We all have tablets now. So you say, hey, Gladfelt or PH Gladfelt, put in there. Yep, and we can go through. There's been 19 calls since 2013 into that plant. We can open up each one of them. It takes us 5 minutes. Confirm that we haven't been in there. Now we're free to go in there with you. I would ask you to consider to use Mike for that purpose, because it's a database that we can all lean on. And it's a nice policy. Viega only markets through wholesale distribution, so it's a nice policy to have, because once we start confusing our customer, then we've lost half the battle. So now let's say that you take us in, but then another tier 1 distributor asks, and we say, oh, sorry, we've been in there with another wholesaler. We'll still support you with tier 1 pricing. We just can't go in there with you. We have to have one unified front to the customer. Viega, I mean, there's certain things that I really like about the company that I work for, and that's one of the big ones. Another one is we're out there in the effort to make your phone ring. So I'd say 99% of the time when Mike and I are making calls to your customers, we're doing it on our own, and it's in an effort to assist you all here. And the flip side of that is none of our wholesalers have 2 press lines. Now with MegaPress, all we do is press, we pioneered it, so it's unlikely that you would see the need to have 2 press lines. There's only one exception, it's that when we had that fire and we couldn't deliver on male and female adapters, and that was the only exception in my tenure to the rule. So we have a general rule that all of our wholesalers, 2 basic product silos on the metals side for Viega. Things to a copper tube OD, ProPress stainless and ProPress copper, and MegaPress. MegaPress is the future. Now, ProPress copper is gonna be commoditized at some point, call it 8 years from now. Like right now, you can go get Apollo Express at Lowe's, right? But does it have a reliable leak detection system? They're the ones that notch out the O-ring. They don't call it a sealing element, because it's not a sealing element. Sealing elements, once compressed, you take the compression off, they return to the original manufactured shape. That's how we're getting the extended warranties. It's not just the recipe, but it's the peroxide curing method. I don't like to get too much behind baseball because it bores people to death, but an O-ring and a sealing element, two different generations of things, and they notch out, they put little notches into the O-ring, and then they insert their metal into it. And the thought here is that if you put pressure to it, it'll identify an unpressed connection. Mike showed you the third-party testing that was less than reliable. And in my view, if it's not 100% reliable, it can't be trusted. So when you talk to guys in the field, they're very happy to tell you that, hey, look, I want Viega. I sometimes just don't want to pay Viga's pricing. So now we have something we can work with. You know, so because if he gets a false positive, he leaves for lunch, he comes back, and he's pumping water out for the last hour onto his floor. People get really mad at that. So now let's take the conversation one step further. You got a guy, he's got a very large job. It's Reading Hospital. This is an accurate. The only thing that our competition has, and you may even, because you have different marketing game plans for many different manufacturers, you may have to do this yourself. But sometimes the only thing they had to do that they didn't even have availability to work with, because they couldn't provide reducing tees. They had to bush them down. So we looked at it, we said, well, you know, you're bushing your tees down. That's 2 fittings where with Viega, many things that we can point to that separates us from our competition. Big one is logistics. Just so happens that our distribution center is right in our backyard here.